Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beyond the Arc podcast. Dallas, once again, joined by Levi. Levi, how's it going?
Doing well. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. So I guess let's go ahead and get started with the Illinois game. Recap it a little bit. In my opinion, the most impressive win for Coach Barnes at Tennessee when you consider all things. Being on the road in a hostile environment, not having your point guard for nearly half of the game, and having almost everyone else in foul trouble, including, I believe, a few of the fans may have picked up a foul sitting on the couch or maybe at the game watching it. But anyway, Levi, what are your opening thoughts on the Illinois game?
Jordan Gainey. Wow. I didn't ever expect him to have it in. I don't know if you saw the clip of Brad Underwood talking to his team, telling his guys that they need to get up over the top of the ball screens because Gainey's not a handler. He's not a ball handler. It's not what he does. I don't know if he'd like to have that statement back. I would. Chaz obviously kept us in it in the first half. I'd really like to look into the numbers of how many points he averages in the first half compared to the second half, because it feels like every time at halftime they're like, "Yeah, Chaz Lanier leading the Vols with 19 points. He ends the game with 22."
Yeah.
Uh, Iggy played a pretty poor game offensively. I'm not mad at him though. Anytime you can go get us 14 rebounds, I'm perfectly okay with it. Huge steal late. I think that fan that pushed Chaz Lanier should probably have gotten a foul, but that's just me. I also was very impressed with Bishop Boswell. He played some really nice minutes for us, and I completely agree with what you stated that this is, I wouldn't say it's the most impressive win under Barnes. I still like that Alabama game last year is maybe the best win, but as you said, all things considered, not having Zakai Ziegler for most of the game, Chaz Lanier fouling out. Zakai and Chaz only combined for 50 minutes when most of the season they've been combining for about 70 ish. So for us to still figure out a way to get that win against, and in my opinion, I think Illinois is a top 15 basketball team. I think it's a really good win, and maybe the first time we've seen Barnes celebrate a little bit on the sideline. So I'm happy for that too.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you saw that video. As soon as I saw the video from the court side, I knew I had to watch Barnes. That was actually the first thing I watched in the video. Not even Gainey scoring the layup. I just watched Barnes, and it was pretty hilarious seeing him actually celebrate and show a little positive emotion. He's known to show some not so positive emotion at times on the sidelines. As you noted, she got to shout out Bishop Boswell. I mean, yeah, only stat wise, only had 3 rebounds, but they was all offensive and kept some key possessions alive. And that's not going to look like much on the stat line and in the box score, but it's pretty huge. Also, have to shout out Darlin Stone Dubar. I mean, his block and then clutch three was probably one of the plays that changed the game, as well as you mentioned Igor Milicic's steal on the inbounds and taking it up about half court to the for a slam. We mentioned it last last episode. Illinois is one of the best teams in the country at rebounding the ball, and Tennessee out rebounded them. That was not something we expected to see. I mean, yeah, Illinois just an impressive win. I mean, they have NBA talent all over the court. Will Riley, Kasparas. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his
Yaku
last name.
Koinis. I know how to say it now. It's Yaku Koinis.
Yaku Koinis. Both of
Yeah,
them.
I
Both of
couldn't
them.
delete last week's episode because I was calling you boy Yakuinis, but it's Yaku Koinis. I got to know his name because I think he's a lottery pick in my opinion. Guy can play.
He is. I mean, but NBA talent all over the court. Even Kylan Boswell, he was pretty impressive, and he's the Arizona transfer, if I'm not mistaken. Do
You are
you
correct.
have
Yeah.
okay? Do you have anything else you want to add from Illinois?
I mean, no, we touched on it pretty well. I mean, Jordan Gainey, man, just zero turnovers. We didn't turn the ball over as a team the entire second half, which is quite incredible considering your all SEC, arguably, all American point guard is on the bench for 13 minutes of the second half. The fact that we didn't turn the ball over a single time is very impressive. Speaks about this team's respect for the ball and making sure that we don't make lazy passes. Like, for example, the pass in that Igor stole and went down and dunked to put us ahead. That's just a lazy pass. And that's one thing I can say about this team this year so far. Is we're not we're not careless with the ball. We definitely value the basketball, and that's something that in March, if you don't turn the ball over, you have a really really good shot at winning because the games slow down a lot more in March. I'll say one more thing. This game only had 66 total possessions, which is we slowed Illinois down way more than they'd like to do. And it seems like overall we're going to be a little bit slower this year than last, which last year we had Dalton, as you know, and Dalton was really good about coming down and just putting up the first shot that he saw. So it seems like this year we're going to be a lot slower in pace as a team in whole, which I'm perfectly fine with. It seems to suit this team quite well.
Absolutely. I feel like Tennessee does have the ability to go fast when they want to, but in these games like against Illinois, when you have a team that is built to go fast, you want to kind of slow it down and make them play your style of basketball at times. And I do want to get your opinion on two fouls that happened towards the end of the game. Just want to see what your opinion was on those. The Jemiah Mashack that was called a foul. I guess Jemiah is not allowed to have his face get uppercutted, and then the Zakai Ziegler foul where he fouled out. He was, I mean, I know he had to back away from the offensive player, but I didn't really see a foul there in both sequences. Do you agree, or do you think the refs got it right on a rare occasion?
No, they were horrendous all night, to be honest. I'm not sure. Let's see. Illinois made 12 total field goals the entire game and somehow scored 64 points. So if that tells you anything, uh, the thing that irritates me the most is the Jemai Mashack call because I mean, first if you rewatch the replay, which they went and looked at it, so I'm sure they were like, "Oh, we screwed this one up big time." Of course, the egos of refs nowadays is about as big as the basketball court itself most of the time. The Jemai had complete. He had position. He wasn't moving. He had established himself as a defender. That's a charge all day, every day. I'm not sure how you call that a block in any sense. Even if you just read a middle school rule book, that'll state that that's either a no call or a charge. In my opinion, a clear charge. The Boswell was really good about throwing himself into our players pretty much most of that game. I feel like I saw him at the free throw line too many times. The Zakai call, I understand because he had his back turned. It's just easy, I guess, for the ref to be like, "Oh yeah, this is a foul." I don't agree with it though. I didn't see any contact at all. It's just I assume the ref just saw him turn his back and kind of run through, and he was just like, "Yep, foul." So I guess I can understand the Zakai one. The Jemai Mashack one is just a terrible call. I don't understand how you can call that and then go and look at the replay. I know they went and looked at the replay to see if there was any, non-basketball contact above the head and shoulders and stuff, but surely when they were looking at that replay, they're like, "Oh wow, we screwed this call up big time."
Yeah, I mentioned it was more like an uppercut. I don't know if anyone that listens to this is a wrestling fan, but Cesaro, as was known in WWE, or Claudio Castagnoli is, and now at AEW, he has a hell of an uppercut, and that kind of rivaled what he does at times. It was a pretty absurd call. I mean, how I mean, I understand you can't change it from a foul to just a play on or an offensive foul, but how it's not at least a flagrant, it was just kind of blew my mind. Also, speaking on Jemiah, did you happen to see his mother, what she posted on X about where the family was seated for the game?
What's X? Is that Twitter?
Twitter, yes. I'm
I'm just
trying.
messing with you.
I'm trying
I'm
not to
joking
get
with you.
Elon
Hey, I
after
know,
me.
man. Elon will snipe the podcast. You'll never be able to post it again. I did see that. That was cool. Meshack comes from a great family. I don't know if you noticed, but Lanier's mom is pretty vocal on Twitter as well, which is pretty
Yes.
fun. Sorry, Elon. Um, but yeah, it's cool to see Jemai Meshack's mom and Lanier's mom and all those moms get on Twitter and tweet and have good things to say. I think that's maybe half the reason that Meshack is the player that he is he was just raised that way. I don't even, I've never looked at the guy once and been like, "Ah, he's shook or he's phased." Like I'm pretty sure that Meshack could walk into anywhere in the country and I'd feel 100% confident that he would just he's just between the lines. And once he's between those lines, there's not many better than Meshack when it comes to doing what he does best.
Absolutely. And I mean, just putting the family up at the very top of the arena, I thought that was kind of petty from Illinois. But I mean, I guess you trying to give your team any type of home advantage it could possibly have. And so I guess, I mean, if Tennessee done the same thing, we'd probably applaud it. So whatever. But let's move on to, unless you have anything else you want to add to the Illinois discussion.
Not at all, not at all. I think that's a huge win. We're now second in the country behind Auburn with wins against the bubble, wins above bubble. Sorry, Auburn at 3.5. We're at 3. Kentucky sitting at sixth, 2.3. So the argument of Tennessee ain't played nobody can officially be put in the garbage can, because when you're sitting second in one of the newer metrics that they're going to use to seed teams with wins above the bubble. I don't know why I keep saying against Dallas. I need help.
I think I've
Uh,
said the same thing before.
it's called WAB. It's the
Yeah.
WAB. It's the WAB. But yeah, the whole argument that, oh well, Tennessee hasn't played anybody, it just put it in the trash. Put it in the trash, because we've played some tough teams, and this team's good. They're real good. I mean, other than just the fact that that was a huge win, somehow pulled it out. The exciting win too. Our first buzzer beater since 2019, when good old Lamonte Turner with one shoulder hit that 3-pointer in the corner against VCU.
On
So,
maybe the worst broadcast I have ever possibly watched. Do you remember how bad
oh
that game
my
was?
gosh. Oh yes. Oh, both of them were. We played. I can't remember who we played the night before, but we played somebody the night before, and it was just as pitiful. I'm pretty sure Rick Barnes said that they were never going back to that, so I'm perfectly fine with never going back to that preseason basketball tournament.
Thank goodness. But anyway, I guess let's move on to our hardly known Hoopers. I have a selection this week that I'm very excited to talk about, but I'll let you go first, Levi.
No, no, no. You go first. You go first.
Okay, okay. I have Isaiah Walker from Belmont. I don't know if I've mentioned it before on here, but I've said plenty of times that Belmont I consider to be probably my second favorite school, just a school I really loved watching. I enjoyed watching Rick Bird. I said Rick Barnes. Rick Bird coached there. Walker is a 6'5" guard. Most recently, he's averaging 12.5 points per game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 53% from the field. Most recently against Illinois State a few games ago, he scored 24. He's a pretty solid 3-point shooter, 33%. Not great, but I would say solid. But 55.4% from I mean, 53.7% from the field. Pretty efficient overall. I don't know if you've gotten the chance to watch him or not, but if you haven't, I would definitely recommend checking out Isaiah Walker from Belmont.
I'm with you on Belmont as my second team. I was originally a Belmont signee at one point in time in my life. No Coach Bird quite well, so love them. Try to watch them anytime I can get them on the TV or illegally stream them, I guess you could say.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
But
whoa, 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 whoa. No, what
you know,
wouldn't the Beyond the Arc
legally,
the
legally.
Beyond the Beyond the Arc podcast does not commend or we disavow all illegal streaming.
I said legally.
I thought you said illegally.
No, 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 no. You can run it back. Run it back.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, cut that from the record, man. But do you have anyone for you want to add for hardly known hoopers?
I do. My guy is Enoch Cheeks from Dayton. Heck of a ball player. I watched the Marquette game. This guy can play. I also watched him when they played UConn. He had 20 points against UConn in the 85-67 win that Dayton had against UConn in the Maui. He had 14 the other night against Marquette. 43% from three, but 70% on rim shots as a 6'3" guy. He's just tough, prolific scorer, playmaker. He doesn't pass the ball as well as I guess you'd like a guy, but he went 7 for 12 the other night against Marquette in the paint, which is pretty tough to do. Marquette's got some great guys. 7 for 9 on rim shots. He went 4 for 5. I'm sorry, 3 for 5 from three against Connecticut. And he also had 16 points against Iowa State, which, as you know, Iowa State's kind of like we are, very stingy defensively. So he can play, but he also just has a cool name, Enoch Cheeks. What a name, right?
Absolutely. And you mentioned Iowa State. I just want to refer back to a few episodes ago where I called the head coach TJ Oglesby. I think I removed that from the original podcast, but his name is not TJ Oglesby. His name is TJ Otzelberger. I'm horrible at pronouncing names, but that was a complete miss there by me. And you've mentioned some of last week's games. Anything you want to touch on before we go into our pick 'em?
I just wanted to touch a little bit on some of them here. I mean, you had Kentucky over Louisville in a pretty solid. It looks like Louisville's going to be a pretty good basketball team.
Which is a
Uh,
positive for Tennessee.
Absolutely. I have zero. I mean, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So I like Louisville. I think they got a great coach now, and I think once he gets more of his style of guys in there, they're going to be nice. I mean, 93-85. Kentucky's offense is incredible this year. I will give them credit. Their offense is flowing, but the guy goes, he just doesn't miss a shot the entire game, and that's just not sustainable for Kentucky. Also, I I know Duke in certain metrics is ranked above us in defensive efficiency and stuff like that, but I've watched Duke play, and I'm sorry, but they're not anywhere near as physical as we are. So I'm going to be interested when we play Kentucky to see if they can actually handle our physicality, because I don't think they've seen anything close to the physicality we bring. And I know that Pope is going to have them fired up and ready to go, and because we play there, um, to before they come to us, or do they come to us first? I'm sorry. Last year I know
I
we went there and then they came to us, so I think they reversed it this year.
I know they come to us, or we go there on the 11th. I'm not sure when, on February the 11th. I'm not sure when
They
they
come to
come
us.
to Knoxville. Let me check that real quick. It shouldn't take long
Yeah,
at
but
all.
you have Lamont Butler for Kentucky. He goes 4 for 4 on rim shots, 4 for 4 on jumpers, 6 for 6 from three. Somehow misses 5 free throws. I don't know how you miss five free throws when you're 6 for 6 from three, but to each their own. Uh, there's just no possible way this guy's gets. Well, he'll have to have Jemai Mashak on him, so he's not going to be close.
Yes,
I'd
they
also
we,
like to go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was going to say they do come to us first on January 28th, and then we go to Lexington on the 11th of
Okay, all
February.
right. Thompson Bowling better be fired up. I'm still very disappointed in the atmosphere that we provided last year for those guys, senior night, and I mean, man, it was half quiet in there. The Kentucky fans were louder than we were, and we outnumbered them 80 to 20%. It was pitiful last year, especially being senior night. It was really an emotional senior night, though, with Josiah and Santee and Dalton, all those guys that we love so much. But it was a pitiful atmosphere for what Thompson Bowling Arena should be. I would also like to touch on the Dayton Marquette game, because Dayton, I mean, it was 71-63, but Dayton flat out whipped Marquette. I don't know if you got to catch any of that one.
I didn't see any of it live, but I went back and watched a little bit of it. A few of the full, like, not like a full game highlight, but the
Yeah, the quick little highlights from
yeah,
Ball Knower. What's Wheels? Wheels, man, everybody loves
yes,
Wheels.
Wheels. I forgot his
Everybody
name.
loves Wheels. Yeah, Wheels gets me through basketball season. He's great at what he does. And
Yeah,
then obviously Bama beat Creighton 83-75.
which I
Nobody
feel
cares.
feel like it's kind of a little bit of a not really. I don't want to say it's a mirage, but Creighton just lost Pop Isaacs, so I don't really take much from that personally.
Correct. Yeah. I'm still not that impressed with this Bama team, especially for the roster that they put. I mean, they get the transfer from Rutgers that everybody says, Amori or whatever his name is, that he's going to put Bama over the top. If you can't shoot the three ball, you're not helping Bama. So the more that Bama plays a big that can't shoot outside of 12 feet
It's a
is a
positive for
win
their
for the rest
opponents.
of the country.
Absolutely.
So I was never all that impressed with the fact that they signed him, because I was like, well, Bama's at their best when they can just go five wide and penetrate and kick and get wide open threes over and over. And also, I don't like injuries, and I definitely don't like them to really good players that I actually enjoy watching. So Right Cell that popped his Achilles for Bama, that's going to end up hurting them a lot. Right Cell does a lot of great things for Alabama, so I think that'll maybe set Bama back a bit. And I think the top of the SEC battle will come down to Tennessee and Auburn. And I tweeted it yesterday, and I'm still irritated about it. There's no reason that Tennessee and Auburn should not be a home and home series this year.
Agreed.
It's ridiculous. There's no reason that the top two teams in the conference do not get to go play at each other's places. I know we added Oklahoma and Texas, but I think it's ridiculous. So
What are you going to do? But I do want to talk about you mentioned you're about Kentucky and their offense, and then they haven't played anybody as physical as Tennessee has. If you ask me right now, as we sit here, I think three of the more overrated teams in college basketball are probably Kentucky, Gonzaga, and as we just got done talking about Alabama. I mean, Kentucky is. We're talking about a team that lost to Clemson. I mean, yeah, it's a road game. It's hard to win on the road, but you can't win games like they do without playing defense. And at times they just look like they don't care at all about playing defense. And that's going to come back to bite them sorely. And Gonzaga, I mean, yeah, you look at their resume and they've beaten. Let's me give me a second here to look at their resume. They lost to West Virginia. I know that for sure. And I'm not too impressed with West Virginia myself. I don't know about you.
I was until they lost their big man.
Yeah, when
They
they
lost him.
when they lost Tucker, they it kind of it hurt.
Yeah, they're not all that formidable in my opinion. Gonzaga's fine.
They're 7-3. I mean, beat Baylor pretty handedly. Beat
In
San.
my opinion, UConn is still not a great basketball team. And UConn, I know the score was 77-71, but in my opinion, UConn handled them other than the start. UConn started slow, but UConn is, in my opinion, not a great basketball team, and they handled Gonzaga with relative ease. Like I said, I know the score's close, but these scores can be a little deceiving at times. Gonzaga doesn't really play a whole lot of defense, and as we all know, Mark Few's teams are just not physical whatsoever. So
No, and looking at their resume, I mean, their best win is Baylor. It was the first game of the year, and when you compare it to Tennessee's, I mean, Tennessee's probably best win at the moment. It's probably either the road game against Illinois or Baylor, but they lost to Virginia and they've lost to Kentucky and they've lost to UConn. Tennessee is 10-0. I feel like you have to take Tennessee all day, every day. I'm not so sure if there's anyone out there kind of arguing against it, but I just want to. I don't want to seem like I'm pointing out the obvious, but I just feel like that was something I had to get off my chest as well as Alabama. I mean, they lost to Oregon. I mean, Oregon's not nothing special this year. It doesn't seem at the moment. But I could talk about that all day, and we ain't got much time
if,
left here.
if Oregon's bigs could have finished at the rim, they'd have beat them by about 30. So
Agreed. I watched them.
they missed three or four just wide open layups. I just want to say one more thing. I don't know if you saw John Rothstein's quote on Jemai Mashak today, but it says, capable of guarding all five positions on the floor, Mashak is separating himself as college basketball's best overall defender. You can't measure what this guy does in a box score. I have to agree.
I do too.
I've yet to see anybody be able to just score on Mashak. The Yaku Koinis, he had a couple good moments against Mashak, got the better of him a few times, but when a team only scores 12 field goals with all that NBA talent that me and you both agree Illinois has, I would like to just give a shout out to Jemai Mashak. I know that Gainey's getting a lot of the love. Mashak played with four fouls for quite a while and somehow still locked down and didn't foul out. So props to him.
Absolutely. Anytime you get a chance to shout out Jemai Mashak, you have to take it. But anyway, let's transition to our college basketball pick 'em real quick as we set the current record.
Oh gosh.
I'm 3-5 currently, and Levi, you are 2-6. So
Whew.
Neither one of us are doing great, but hopefully this week it can all change. Let's start out with the first game. We have North Carolina. Excuse me. They're playing on a neutral site against Florida. It's a neutral site, but it's in North Carolina. It's Charlotte, about 2 hours from Chapel Hill. Levi, who do you have? And if you want to expound on why you have them, go ahead and do that.
I like North Carolina in this one. Close to home. It'll be, like you said, neutral site. It's not going to be a neutral site. That'll be 90% Tar Heel fans. I like North Carolina to give Florida their first loss in this one. I I do like Florida. I've watched them play a couple times. I think they're a solid basketball team. I think they're more of a fool's gold team than we are, as everybody says we are, because we ain't played nobody. But I think Florida is more of that team than we are. There's a reason that we're number one undefeated and Florida's still floating around that area that they're at in the AP poll because I like Florida. I'm not sold on Florida. I'll just say that.
Agree. And you may not have watched Florida, but Todd Golden has watched you. Um, Switching over to Oklahoma.
I can't
But
believe you just said that.
I can't believe I said it either, but I'm keeping it in. The hell with it. Oklahoma and Michigan. Oklahoma, it's a neutral site as well in the same spot that North Carolina and Florida are playing. I went. Oh, by the way, I took Florida. Um, Oklahoma and Michigan. I took Oklahoma here. Dusty May is they've Michigan's kind of been on a little bit of a rocky trajectory here lately, and I think Porter Moser is a very good coach. So I went Oklahoma. Who do you have?
I like Oklahoma as well in that one. I love Porter Mosier.
Yeah,
His
me
style
too.
of basketball is just very much my style. If I was a head coach, I think me and Porter Mosier would probably be sharing notes, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I've pretty much forgiven him for what Loyola. Not forgiven him, but well, you can't forgive, but you can't forget what Loyola Chicago done to Tennessee. But
It
moving
wasn't
on,
that wasn't him. We just
was it
we
not?
couldn't we couldn't throw the ball. Oh
Well,
no, it was him. I'm just saying we just couldn't throw the ball in the ocean, man,
that's
that
true.
night.
True. All right, switching gears to UC Irvine at Belmont. I took Belmont. Go Bruins. Levi, who do you have?
So this is one, as you told me, I had to dig a little digging here into UC Irvine because I've not seen much of them. I wanted to know a little bit, and like I said, as a one-time Belmont signee way back in the good old days, I like to try to keep up with Belmont. So I did some digging. UC Irvine's a tough little team.
They
Uh,
are.
they
They're pretty
they
solid.
they play a really fun style of basketball. I caught a little bit of some highlights of them just to see what kind of style they play, and I was very impressed. So I'm going to take UC Irvine in this one. I think this is a really good basketball team.
Boo! You stink!
Um, I'm not sure how they'll beat Belmont because just the system that Belmont runs is, I mean, dude, it's like going to the dentist. It's brutal. It's going to be painful for the other team because they're going to be really good at what they do. But I'm going to take UC Irvine. They got a couple guys shooting the ball really well. They got 3 or 4 guys that shoot it over 40% from three and that have taken quite a bit of threes. They have a big 7-footer. I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce his name, which seems like a common theme that's starting up in college basketball in these recent weeks. But yeah, I'm going to take UC Irvine. I like them to win that game.
All right. And going on to our final game, we have Mississippi State going to Memphis to take on Penny Hardaway's Tigers. I took Mississippi State. Levi, who do you got?
This is the toughest one of the pick 'em this week. Mississippi State's a good team. Speaking of the dentist, that's what they call Mississippi State's coach.
Chris Jans.
That's his nickname. They say it's going to be the dentist. It's like pulling teeth to get a bucket against them. I think that the Mississippi State fans will travel well. They don't have much to look forward to when it comes to basket or football. Sorry. So I think they'll travel well. They do play tomorrow against Central Michigan, which that's Central Michigan. But I'm going to take Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State gets it done at Memphis. I think that the defense and the physicality that Jan's teams brings will be just enough to keep the Memphis guys a little flustered as we've seen, they get flustered quite easily. So I'll take Mississippi State.
I agree. And just a quick little note, we talked a while ago about Danny White and what moves he would make when Rick Barnes sadly finally has to retire. If it was me, Chris Jans would be one of the first people I call just to keep that defensive integrity at the team. But I know, like as we mentioned, he's probably going to go with more of an offensive guy. But anyway, I would, if it was me, I'd go with Chris Jans. He'd be one of the guys on my list. So, Levi, unless you got anything else to add, we'll go ahead and wrap up here.
No, sir. I'll be at Thompson Bowling tomorrow for the good old Western Carolina game. Not much to touch on, I guess, on that one,
Nah,
as we all know.
I figured we wouldn't even talk about the next three. I mean, Western Carolina, Middle Tennessee State. Just no disrespect to Middle Tennessee State, but and Norfolk State. Just the next upcoming three games, and I mean, what is there to say? I mean, I feel like Tennessee's going to should win those games pretty handedly, and no one wants to sit here and listen to us talk about their roster. I don't think.
To be completely honest with you, Dallas, I know nothing at all about their rosters. So,
Me neither. Me neither.
and I wasn't even going to dig into it. I figured you didn't want to talk about it. But anyways, go Vols, and I hope to talk to you. I guess it'll be the 23rd will be the day before Christmas Eve.
Yeah, I figured we'd push it back to next Thursday. Just take the first few days off and come on Thursday and talk about what else happened that we've missed, as well as the Arkansas game, which would be, well, it wouldn't be that weekend, but be looming pretty closely. So I guess since we won't be back on here, I want to wish a Merry Christmas to everybody. Use Levi as well, and go Vols, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. Enjoy the holidays, my friend.